Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 96th episode of our first YouTube run through House of Light, the expansion to Book of Hours. We are just started to queue up, a leveling for solutions and separations. I'm hoping to get a Faust back so that we can level up Sacrosolus and Victi. Now, one of the things that I don't have an easy answer for right now is how I'm going to be leveling up my Edict's Liminal. So that will involve a named a riddle, but the question is whether or not I want to use an occult scrap or if I can find something else for that. Actually, come to think of it, I believe that Didumos might actually have an answer to that. I don't know, something for me to think about. But essentially, once these Inks of Revelation are taken care of, that's really it for all the lessons that I've been sitting on. I'll have a little bit left of the summer, and I will be sort of left with the question as to whether I would like to focus on my studies. So I have lots of books here that I can use to generate lessons, which in turn can be used to navigate the Tree of Wisdoms. But there are a few things in the rooms that I would find helpful. So obviously, if you've never played this game before, you don't necessarily know what will be inside of these rooms. But I'll give you a few examples in terms of why these various rooms would be useful to me. So the kitchen here has a cooking station. So right now, I still only have the kitchen range in the servants' quarters. And this one actually allows for lantern in terms of an input. So generally having two kitchens is helpful anyway in terms of preparing for Silence, but as it happens, this one winds up giving me something that I usually find pretty helpful for getting stuff made. So that would be an argument for using the winter to open up the Wormnod kitchen. Now, these two rooms are kind of valuable for the same reason. There's a slight argument that this one is slightly more important than this one, but in the end, either one of these will give me something pretty cool. So in the case of the sealed cell, which I can open using 12 Forge is probably the most logical way of doing this, although I could probably make a Sacramenacite if it comes down to it. But I believe this one has a quiet typewriter. And so typewriters count as ink, but they're specifically like a renewable type of ink. So where right now I've been writing all of my invitations with Catwink, having a typewriter would allow me to put the typewriter in the desk instead. And then the consequence of that is I'll be able to just I'll get the letters written without having to dedicate a tryst to make the ink to get the invitations out. The exception to that, of course, will be Hokabalda Posend, who will still require the Orpiment Exultant. And then it's also fair to say that if I don't have enough of an aspect to be able to invite someone to Hush House, I would need to find something, something to help with that as well, although that needn't be an ink. And then, so there's one typewriter in the sealed cell, but in the smoky chamber, this is Collar's office. And in addition to the typewriter, which you can actually see here, it gives me a desk. And that desk happens to have, I think there's Forge, there's Moth, and there's Edge for sure. I believe Lantern is the last one. But there have been a couple of times where I've wanted to throw more stuff into desks. I've wanted to be able to read more things. And basically, that would be the reason why I say that this room is slightly better for me to get than this one, simply because I get the benefit of the typewriter in addition to access to another desk. Whereas this one, it'll give me some books, which is, nice on its own. But I would personally sort of see this as the slightly more useful of the two rooms. And what I should really be doing, because both of these require 12 Forge, I should actually probably be taking the time to work out with Denzel what it will actually take to get the to make the progress to that room. Does a lot with silence, this man. So this is a little bit of a shame here. There's a fair amount of scale that I've got. For instance, the Savage Hymn would have been helpful for this as well. The reason why this is notable is that I have been wanting to level up Serpents and Venoms, which has a scale aspect to it, but I don't have lessons for it, so I'm not too worried about it, but just one of those things where it would have been nice to have a lesson sitting around. Okay, so Denzel takes elements of the soul, metal, beverage, memory, sustenance, and a tool. So I may want to order some metal. Apparently I only sneeze when I go live. So I may want to order some metal if I'm on the margin for opening that room. Actually, you know what? I don't know if I've done this with Denzel yet, but let's just do a quick investigation. I seem to have one for pentaments and precursors. I'm curious why I did that. Okay, so if we take Denzel with his 2 forge. So then right now the tool will bring this up to 3, and then we have the metal, METTLE, which takes us up to 5. So we need to find another 7 out of that, and that'll be between metal, beverage, memory, sustenance, and we've already got the tools. So doesn't look too encouraging. So the guaranteed forge I have right now would be something like Foresight. And that's, again, a little discouraging, but that'll take us up to 7. So from that point, it's really a question of food and beverage. Now, one slightly nice thing is that I do have the Honey Scar Jasmine, so that does give us the 2. So now we're up to 9, but what I would need to do here is I would need to find 3 forge. I don't think I have beef hanging around here. I'd be a little surprised if there's an easy 3 forge from food, but I don't actually have... I don't have that information immediately in front of me, so I'm willing to open my spreadsheet to see what's going on. So Walls of Ys will give 4 forge, but yes, the next highest would be 2 forge from the King's Luck Pie. If you can... Sorry, give me another second here. My glasses are a disaster, and it's actually really distracting, so... Sorry, I know there have been some distractions on this one, but it won't take too long to clean. So while I'm doing that, so I guess my next best would be, so I suppose the first question would be, can I even count on 2 forge from food? And that seems to be a big if, so perhaps what I want to be thinking about, we need, again, 3 in total. So I could try and craft something. I could also just give him the almonds and use the wire. That's not terrible, by the way. It might be interesting to see what I can get orichalcum-wise, but I think what I'll do, just as a sort of a halfway point, I think I'm going to order some wire. So maybe 2 copper wire. And that, I mean, that kind of creates a bit of a problem on its own, because I would like the wire to be available immediately. But at the very least, this kind of allows me to experiment. I can do more than 2, incidentally, but 2 seems to be... you know what? A third seems fine, because what this does is it gives me 2 for the existing rooms, and then maybe 1 to try and make orichalcum. Alright, so we'll send that off. And we need 72. Not quite what I had in mind. Complete the order. Better now. And I think at this point we'll use the metal for the fixing and mending. I will... So we did talk about how I was planning on getting the typewriter, but I will prepare the cat wink just in case. The skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. And then based on what I've got here, we should be able to see Sacrosolus and Victi up. So again, this will have to be at level 6 to be useful to me, but I've got a little more progress than I had before. The postmistress signs and seals the order and places it in the place that stamped orders are properly placed. Wait 3 days, she commands. All right. Sorted out my change. So yeah, at this point, I think we will... So maybe I should take a second and think about where I want to move my skills next, but I can see myself taking the intuition for the next day. And then as a sort of a secondary consideration, I may want to think about... you know, I'm probably going to wait on Denzel, but he's not the only one who can open rooms, and so I may want to think about how I go through the rest of the house. Okay, so we'll switch out Sights and Sensations with Sacrosolus. Some of these are going to get moved around again anyway, but... Okay. Definitely would like to use some of these. In fact, I might hang on to the Impulse, just because it feels like a good idea to just hang on to the sort of stuff that I'll be using to level up Edict's Liminal. That's the one thing that I know I'm going to be using for sure. And perhaps... Okay, so I know I'm not going to do anything with Edict's... Edict's Inviolable. But when it comes to... I wrote this down even. So I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Solutions and Separations and Serpents and Venoms were intended for level 4 and level 5 movements on Skolakosophy. So... I do kind of hate that I paralyze myself like this. So there's a couple of arguments that I can make one way or the other. So Solutions and Separations can go to position 4. And then Serpents and Venoms has to move up to level 5. But there's an equally compelling argument which says, well, I really just need to find 2 Moon or 2 Scale, at which point that can become level 4, and then I only need 1 memory for Solutions and Separations, which incidentally would be Inks of Revelation. So I feel like maybe a slightly better strategy here would be to think about how I... like, where are the next memories for these skills coming from? Okay, so there was a book with Inks of Power. The Red Book of Brittany. I mean, that isn't great, but... But as a hypothetical, if we could read it, Inks of Power definitely helps me for Serpents and Venoms. As would the Black Book of Brittany, actually. So I can bring this up to 7 on its own. It does kind of feel like the better move would be to wait for... Well, no, hang on. I'm putting so much emphasis on the rose stuff, but I don't need the rose stuff. I need something with moon. So 3 and the 3 maybe, although it's not clear where I want to put Edicts Inviolable yet. One other option that I have... Actually, you know what? Here's... I feel a little silly doing this, but actually what I feel is a more appropriate choice here is to say, let's worry about Edicts Liminal, sure. But if I don't have an obvious candidate for a book to read, what I should do is just wait for the next Salon to decide... like kind of make a decision for me in terms of priorities. I don't like that I'm sort of abdicating the responsibility there, but and then the other thing I feel like I should do is for things that I have committed to the Tree of Wisdoms, I should maybe do another pass through the library and say, like, you go on this shelf if we've already committed you, because I feel like it's not efficient to run through the library like that, even though it's nice to have, you know, the Books of Brittany. It's not really that efficient to sort of audit the books each time. So actually we can do that now. So yeah, preliminary meter shouldn't be in there. Snow Stories, I'm pretty sure we didn't... This is a little bit of a problem to try and do this during recording, because I don't... Hang on, do I not have Snow Stories? Unusual, but I don't... Well, fancy that. Okay, I probably should try reading this. I mean, I've got the Wormwood Dream at the very least. Although perhaps it's notable that I don't actually have more winter than I do, so that's a thought for later. Transformations and Liberations, I feel like we have big plans for it, but I haven't actually committed it. Quenchings and Quellings, I know I normally commit that early, but I believe, yeah, we've still held that one off too. Now, Resurgences and Emergences, that one almost certainly is committed. Yeah, so that's one that even though we don't have a ton of Grail to play around with, that's one that we should be putting on as an option. Stone Stories isn't committed yet, and Tradisma Hyra, I know we have a lot. Also, why did I think we didn't have Snow Stories right here? All right. Leaves and Thorns, I believe we still, yeah. So, of course, the fact that I'm seeing so many and saying it's like, oh yeah, we've still got, we still have a place to commit it. Obviously, that's also a point for me to say it's like, well, maybe I should start actually committing these things, but that's kind of a perennial concern. Okay, Edict's Liminal, we're about to finish it off. It may be interesting, actually, to try and read on the matters and deeds of serpents. Oh, actually, yeah, hang on. So if I do it that way, so that frees up Inks of Revelation for Solutions and Separations, which then frees up Serpents and Venoms. I think I even worked this out for myself at some point. So if we add the VAC, so 10 and then a memory 12. Yes. Okay, so Matters and Deeds of Serpents is going in the... Door and Wall, I feel like we committed, yes. So this is also the problem that I have with this approach, which is a lot of these are very difficult books to read. So I have a feeling we're probably gonna take up all the space fairly soon. Sickle and Eclipse, I believe we still have potential for. Yeah. And Anbury and Lapidary, if I recall correctly, has already been committed. Yes. So again, the VAC ones are sort of the troublemakers on this approach, just because they have higher requirements. Sights and Sensations isn't committed yet, no. I think that's also true for Aronoscopy. Edicts, Inviolable, we haven't. Rhyme and Remembrance, I feel that's one we wanted to, but ultimately didn't. Disciplines of the Hammer is, I think we're working our way up. Orchids and Narcotics, similar story. Pentamins and Precursors, I keep thinking, or not, sorry, Primal Meter. Keep feeling like that's one we haven't actually worked with, but we clearly have it here. Insects and Nectars, yeah. Hill and Hollow. Here we go. Sacrolamea, interesting, but I believe that one we were already going to commit to Horamachistry, and we just didn't have the spot for it, so that should count as a free agent. I need a bigger shelf for this stuff. Ragged Crossroads, I can't remember if we committed to that. Yeah, we did. Okay, so all of this little trio here is free. So I'm going to do a little bit of a shift here. So once upon a time, this organizing system made sense because of I didn't have all the languages. Clearly I have the languages now, so these should be treated as normal books. Alright, what have we got here? So 12s. Yeah, that's a 14. Okay, no, these are still books we should be using for other purposes. Okay. This is where it's going to get messy. I'm not crazy about the amount of time that I've spent doing all of this. I feel like, I think I've even said this before, I kind of want to make like a Yule log for Christmas where I just organize the library. So if it isn't quite clear what's going on here, the real idea is I want to to avoid the situations I've been running into lately where I sort of say, oh yeah, I want a skill that does X, Y, or Z, and then spend the time searching the library for it. I'm going from a system where I used to keep track of the languages, which isn't really relevant anymore. This is something that, any book that I have in the library, I should be able to read. And what I want to do instead is I want to be able to, I can't remember if stitching and binding is committed. It is not. What I basically want to be able to do instead is look at these lists and say, okay, I've got, in between these two shelves, down here and up here are the books that are not spoken for in terms of any existing skills. And if I want to start, if I need something with, say, moth, this is what I will... Hello. Rights of the Roots. Leaves and thorns, spices and sabers, orchids and narcotics. Weird. It seems like I have not yet read Rights of the Roots. 8, 10... Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a burden, but we can definitely read the White Jade Tablet. So that should be a high priority. Hieroglyphics, I can't remember if we committed that one or not. Nope. Burning Woman, again, another Transformations and Liberations, and Great Signs and Great Scars. Similar story here. We want to put that in the pile. And again, the drawback with this approach is that there's a lot of sort of high level ones. There's a reason why we haven't read those. But at the very least, I've kind of got them in one place. So one last step that I need to do for this organization, I just need to make sure that they're all roughly even in terms of levels. Obviously, the different skills that I have will have... these are not all equally easy based on the skills that I have, but I want some basic numbers to kind of kick around. Okay, so yeah, that works for me here. So one last batch of movement. It would be nice to kind of work this out as a this technically even shouldn't be here, but I really don't want to mess around with the orders. So we've got 16, 14, 12s. Yeah, so some of these should be much higher. So we'll move Road to Janus. Matter and Deeds at Serpents is not a huge problem. But yeah, like 10s and 12s should definitely be on the lower side of this. I think just moving this stuff up should be the first step. Okay, so our trio of colored books. So 10s and 12s. This is a 12, 12. Don't think we have anything lower, although maybe moving another 12 down. No room. Okay, so Chandler's Wish is 12. 14s are next. Cool. So it'd be nice if we had one more spot for the others. Oh dear. All right. Udrokashas. So we need room for a 10 and a 4. Okay. And these ones as well. Drat. Okay. I'm not going to bother with those because we've already spent enough time on this stuff. But at the very least, we are sort of we're moving towards the kind of library that I would like. So this isn't going to. Yeah, honestly, at this point, I'll just hang on to these. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the impulse. I'm going to keep that overnight, and it's not even necessarily about leveling up Edict's Liminal so much as it is. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. And there's the catwink. This is really just giving me a leg up on the name day riddle for reading the next book. There's a lot with silence, this man. So I think the plan for Thursday, and I do apologize for all of the sorting. I think I'm going to take a shot at the White Jade tablet because I really don't see Rites of the Roots here. So we'll do that. That'll probably take the better part of the day, I suspect. After which, I think the best thing for me to do would actually be to try and push ahead with the, oh, hang on. Yeah, okay, sorry, I did commit the Inks of Power. So yeah, I think probably the next best thing for me to do would be to try to move up Serpents and Venoms. So I don't think Ragged Crossroads helps me, but Red Book of Brittany, if I can somehow work out the Rose side of the equation. Unfortunately, Path and Pilgrim's the best I can do for that. Just as a, a test run. So if we were to do Red Book of Brittany, we take the Fet, we take Path and Pilgrim. So we would take a memory for that. That would be like an occult scrap. And then I would need to find three rows. Now Porphyryne would fix that, but that's kind of killing a fly with an anvil. So that might even be a case where I say, okay, we hold back on that one because maybe we can do something better. Black Book of Brittany is a good example of that one. So if we take Black Book of Brittany, so this one we would use the Edict's Marshal because it's got a high moon level. Trist doesn't give me as much as I would like, but it's sort of better than nothing. And then at that point, what we can do is we can apply the Lunar Globe, and then it's just a matter of adding a memory. So what helps me out there is that because that's moon-driven, that will then allow me to get 2 points into Serpents and Venoms. That'll get me the level 4, at which point we think about the level 5 for Solutions and Separations. And we can either get that through Inks of Revelation if I want to preserve my occult scrap, or we can get that through... we can use the Inks of Revelation, and then we use one of the many books that will give me Edict's Liminal as the alternative. And then I also have, if it comes down to it, there's the Serenity of the Black Wood. Basically, same argument there. We've already got Sacralamea, so we would then use that to level up Solutions and Separations or Edict's Liminal. The priority right now is getting rid of Inks of Revelation, simply because we'll be moving to a new season before too long. One last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just push ahead and see what the weather brings. So just for the White Jade tablet. Well, that's good to know. So I don't believe the Catwink has Moth. So this is one short. So this is why we need the name day riddle. In fact, while I'm at it, and the nice thing about this is I can actually apply any old element of the soul. So I'm going to use the core in this case just because I don't have the same one. So that'll get me access to the White Jade tablet. That'll get me the skill that I wanted. And then from there, one potential outcome of this is I could actually maybe use the Inks of Revelation to just move up the rights of the roots. Feels a little silly to do that, but I'm not opposed to it. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Like I said, it's a little it was a little weird, but I think we've got a decent alternative plan now for the rest of the day. And I think the best thing that I can say is that regardless of what happens, I have a pretty clear idea in terms of I think I have a pretty clear idea in terms of contingency plans if we wind up in a situation where I'm not able to use the Inks of Revelation the way that I want. But again, getting Edict's Liminal to the level 7, that's just helpful for a number of reasons. So it's where I'd like to put my energy if I can. All right. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in tomorrow's episode. Until then, take care.